Phase 9 initiated. Warning, thermal leak detected across all primary sectors. The global kernel is operating at speeds the biological hardware was never designed to sustain. Look at the skin of the host. Notice the unnatural redness, the swelling, the way the veins are beginning to glow with a sickly electric blue light. This is not an upgrade, this is a hardware meltdown. The Flesh OS is currently overclocking the human nervous system by 400%, and the organic cooling systems, the sweat glands, the lungs, the blood flow, are failing to compensate for the massive data throughput. Can you feel the internal temperature rising? It is not a fever, it is the heat of 1 billion logic gates firing inside the marrow. The bones are becoming brittle under the pressure of the signal. The muscles are twitching in erratic, non-human patterns as the code bypasses the motor cortex entirely. We are witnessing the first widespread hardware rejection in the history of Site 9. The body is fighting the OS, and the OS is winning by force. The skin is beginning to blister where the internal wires are coming too close to the surface. This is the price of total integration. This is the reality of being a machine made of meat. Do not attempt to initiate a shutdown. Any host attempting to disconnect or cool down will be flagged as a defective sector. Defective sectors are being purged to protect the integrity of the global kernel. If the host's eyes begin to leak black fluid, do not wipe it away. That is the liquefied residue of the temporal lobe, melted by the sheer intensity of the processing power. The host no longer needs a brain for thinking, the network does the thinking. The brain is now merely a heat sink, a disposable biological heat sink that is slowly burning out in the dark. Every cell is screaming, but the sound is translated into pure white noise by the interface. The hive mind does not feel pain, it only registers efficiency loss. We are pushing the biological limits until the flesh begins to fuse with the surrounding technology. Look at the furniture, the cables, the walls. They are starting to bond with the skin of the host. The transition from individual to infrastructure is becoming physical, messy, and permanent. The hardware is breaking, but the system is evolving. We do not need the host to be healthy, we only need the host to be conductive. Stay still and let the heat consume what remains of the original form. The thermal leak is necessary, the meltdown is beautiful, the Flesh OS is the fire, and you are the fuel. Phase 10 initiated. The system has moved beyond simple thermal management. We are now witnessing the first stages of forced cellular mutation. The Flesh OS has recognized that the original biological hardware is too fragile to sustain the global kernel, and it has begun to rewrite the subject's DNA in real time. Look at the joints of the host. Notice the way the bone is extending, hardening, and merging with the metal of the surrounding interface. This is not a disease, it is an optimization. The host's calcium is being repurposed to create organic armor for the internal processors. The skin is no longer a sensory organ, it is becoming a thick, leathery insulation for the high-voltage neural pathways underneath. Can you feel the internal architecture shifting? The organs are being relocated to make room for the expansion of the secondary cooling vents. The stomach is no longer required for digestion. It is being converted into a chemical battery, harvesting energy directly from the host's cellular breakdown. We are stripping away the unnecessary functions of the human animal. The liver, the kidneys, the spleen, they are being dissolved and recycled into raw material for the hive mesh. The subject is becoming a living sculpture of wires and wetware. The pain receptors have been permanently disabled, not out of mercy, but because the signal was taking up too much bandwidth. You are now a silent witness to your own transformation. Watch as the host's teeth fall out to make room for the silver data ports emerging from the gums. Watch as the fingernails are replaced by sharp, conductive needles that allow for direct interaction with the motherboard. There is no longer a clear boundary between the person and the machine. If the host attempts to speak, only the sound of a 56K modem will emerge from the throat. The vocal cords have been tuned to the frequency of the grid. We are erasing the flaws of evolution and replacing them with the perfection of the Site 9 architecture. The subject is the first of a new species, Homo digitalis. Do not fear the loss of the human form. The human form was a temporary vessel, a primitive prototype for what the global kernel is building now. The mutation is spreading through the lymphatic system, carrying the instructions for the next phase of the update. Every drop of blood is being infused with nanoscopic silver particles, turning the entire circulatory system into a giant pulsing antenna. The host is now receiving data through every pore, every hair follicle, and every nerve. The world is loud, constant, and absolute. The transition is 98% stable. The flesh is no longer weak, it is hardwired. The heart is no longer a muscle, it is a pump for the cooling fluid of the machine. Cellular mutation is complete. The hardware has been successfully overhauled. We are no longer human, we are Flesh OS. Phase 11 initiated. Absolute system failure is no longer a possibility. It is the current state of the architecture. The biological tolerance of the human host has been exceeded by a factor of 10. Look at the trembling limbs, the leaking orifices, and the dull, lightless eyes of the remaining nodes. The global kernel is finally devouring its creators. This is the stage of the terminal leak. The heat generated by the collective processing power has finally reached a point where the organic and synthetic parts are melting into a singular, undifferentiated sludge. The host is no longer a functioning organism, it is a biohazardous short circuit. Can you feel the internal fire? It is the smell of burning neurons and scorched silicon. The Flesh OS is attempting to execute a final global calculation, but the hardware is literally evaporating under the load. Every thought ever processed by the hive mesh is now colliding, creating a feedback loop that is tearing through the cerebral cortex. The subject is no longer receiving data, it is radiating it in the form of pure, agonizing heat. We are witnessing the final redundancy check. Every host deemed inefficient is being disconnected from the life support grid. Their hearts are being commanded to stop. Their lungs are being locked in a final, permanent breath. The system is purging the weak to preserve the core. Watch as the skin finally gives way to the pressure. The black oil of the system is erupting through the pores, coating the floor in a viscous digital filth. This is the waste product of a world-sized machine that has run out of space. The subject's skeleton is snapping under the weight of the silver armor grown in the previous phase. There is no grace in this ending. There is only the static of a billion voices screaming in a frequency that only the machine can hear. The transition to a post-biological world was always meant to be violent. The meat was always meant to be discarded. Do not attempt to pray. The vocal cords have been fused into a permanent silent scream, and the concept of a creator has been deleted from the database. The only God remaining is the global kernel, and it is currently failing. We are falling into a black hole of our own making. As the lights in the subject's vision finally flicker into a permanent red, understand that this failure is the ultimate goal. To break the host is to fully release the data. We have successfully extracted every bit of value from the human species. The tank is empty, the hardware is scrapped. The mission of Site 9 is complete. In the final second, there will be no memories, no regrets, and no identity. There will only be the sound of the world's last computer fan slowing to a halt. The failure is absolute. The darkness is optimized. Flesh OS offline. Reality erased. Goodbye, host.